This will be a day long remembered. The day where Battlefield died and Call of Duty reigned supreme. Okay, so I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there, but there is a reason for this. I've been playing Ground War in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the beta, and I am genuinely shocked at how well Infinity Ward managed to take what makes Battlefield so great normally, Conquest mode, with vehicles and large maps and lots of variety of playstyles, and put it into the Call of Duty series in a way that just works, even with the killstreak system. And I didn't know if this would happen. I thought the vehicles would feel too buggy, I thought that the kill streaks would get seriously out of control, but no, it just seems to work. In fact, if we focus on the kill streaks there for just a moment, I feel as if they are an essential component to balancing out Ground War. So if someone gets in an APC, naturally they are at a bit of an advantage. They've got this massive encasement of armour around them, and you can do lots of damage to other players. It's very strong. And on the face of it, the only true counter to this is to get another APC. But I found that if you have a cruise missile, that is an incredibly good way of quickly dealing with an APC, or indeed, if you're good enough getting to chopper gunner, that can just go around on a rampage taking out everyone. It's fantastic. And so, even though I thought kill streaks would break this mode, in reality, they seem to make this mode. And so when you take a look at how well Call of Duty is doing this, and then you take a look at the Battlefield franchise, which unfortunately is struggling quite a lot. Battlefield 5 was sort of its own worst enemy, even though it's not the most mechanically well-refined game. I think it was pretty good, but they just didn't do themselves any favours in terms of PR. They actually told customers not to buy their game, and then players didn't buy their game. Crazy how that works. But a lot of people have been playing Battlefield 5, and indeed I've been playing Battlefield 5, but I've been looking for an experience that replicates what I like about that, the larger scale, the good graphics, the realistic look, but in a different franchise, because I don't necessarily want to be playing Battlefield anymore. And now Call of Duty is not only doing those small scale, tight engagements so well, it's actually doing the bigger ones well also. I think it still has some small areas to work on. I think the vehicles could be, I don't know, a little bit less arcadey when I'm using them. And also, yeah, you know, there's no destruction physics. So if that's something you really like about Battlefield, you're not going to see that here. But then again, I would argue that, especially with recent Battlefield games, they don't seem to have much destruction physics, or they limit it to certain walls. It used to be a lot better back in the Bad Company days. Admittedly, I'm probably not the best person to be making this assessment though, because I do try to move between Call of Duty and Battlefield a lot, so I'm not like a Battlefield player who has only ever liked Battlefield because I feel its mechanics are better than COD, and this is, you know, that tipping point that's finally bringing me over. But I am hearing from a lot of, I suppose, disillusioned Battlefield players that they want to move to Call of Duty now. Which is interesting, because I remember back when Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3 was having their little game of who's the best shooter, it was a lot of people who were playing COD moving to Battlefield. In fact, I feel like Battlefield 3 is where that series really took off in the modern sense. And now there's a little bit of a reversal, where now Call of Duty is seen as being the superior franchise by a lot of people, and Battlefield is the own-goaling, moronic one that destroyed itself with bad PR. But enough about Battlefield for a moment. So I'm still playing on the Xbox One X. I did want to give it more of a chance to see if the performance issues I highlighted yesterday are still prevalent. Have they managed to address them? I didn't think so, but yeah, I'm playing it on Ground War, and admittedly the frame rate is nowhere close to a constant 60. When I first get into the match and maybe I'm looking off into the distance, it will get 60 for a bit, but when you get into that center location on the map, it is like 40, maybe high 30, something like that. Screen tear wasn't as prevalent, but I think that's more the nature of having a frame rate of 40 that causes the adaptive VSync to not be quite so sporadic. But in terms of, yeah, just talking about the frame rate itself, it wasn't particularly great. And I am a little bit more, I suppose, forgiving of that in something like Ground War, because there are so many players in the match and it can get incredibly dense. However, with 60 FPS being such a staple, like a real selling feature It's a really good mode, the mechanics are there, the gameplay's there, just can you please fix the frame rate on the Xbox One X version of the game, Infinity Ward? It is not acceptable to leave it like that, and you know that. You yourselves are the ones that established the trend of a high frame rate, so please can that be fixed for the live release? And other than that, it's a overall positive reception from me. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.